What you may see now, but when we are one, we bring more good about. No matter who or what you call yourself or where you come from, yeah. There is a place in this world with open arms right now. Welcome to love, welcome to peace, welcome to our community. Be who you are, let your light shine. We're so much more when we unite. You are welcome here. You are welcome here. See with new eyes, allow and unfold. Embrace and let go. Trust the flow. There's a freedom in love when you follow your heart. Together we are stronger than we could ever be apart. No matter who or what you call yourself or where you come from, yeah. There is a place in this world with open arms right now. Welcome to love, welcome to peace, welcome to our community. Be who you are, let your light shine. We're so much more when we unite. You are welcome here. You are welcome here. Breathe in and out, slowly feel all that's around you. All that you feel, all that you know, let it go. Welcome to love, welcome to peace, welcome to our community. Be who you are, let your light shine. We're so much more when we unite. Yeah, when we unite. Oh, we unite. Yeah, when we unite. Welcome here. Love is welcome here. Peace is welcome here. You are welcome here.
Hello? Oh, yes. Good morning, everyone. Yes. There's mommy. There's mommy. Go see mommy. Good morning, everyone. Welcome. Chloe's offering her welcome as well. Yes. Yes. Oh, she just loves the music. With mommy and everyone. All right, welcome to Center for Spiritual Living Ocala on this beautiful Sunday. I am Reverend Cindy Grimes, and I see we've got some newcomers. Welcome to our circle. Yes, yes, yes. So we'll tell you a little bit, about what we're doing today because every week is something different at our center. And so today is Circle Sunday, but our vision, our mission, and our values are always the same, right? Our vision is that we are a model center for spiritual living as evidenced by the transformational impact we have on our community, meaning the people that are here, but also as we ripple out, right? So the larger Ocala community, but also the larger Centers for Spiritual Living community, which is made up of over 400 different communities all over the world. Some of them are small study groups, but some of them are big centers, and then there's everything in between. So we are just one of those groups. And so our mission is to empower individuals to awaken to that power and presence that lies within and all around us so we can live our best lives. In other words, that thing we call God is right here, right now, sitting in the seat where you are. We are all part of it. It's not out there somewhere, Sky God. Like that idea is not what we're about here. Sky God is for the churches out there, down the road. We believe that God is here and now, and that we are all part of that. And our values, and we invite people to say them along with us. If you don't mind, you're welcome to, and if not, you don't have to. But the first one is spiritual growth and practice. Then love, appreciation, community, freedom, creativity, health and wholeness, generosity, and financial well-being. Good. All right. Hey, Bridget. Yeah, we need some more chairs. Let's widen our circle. I heard from a few folks that were coming like from Gainesville too, so it might get even bigger. I don't know. Until we get smaller again. Yes, yeah, we may. Yes, yeah, right. So, if you come regularly, you've heard all this, just bear with me. If you haven't, though, you'll want to know what this is all about. So, our theme for the year, every year has a different theme. And this year, we're going from beyond surviving to thriving. And we're using the teaching of the science of mind. That's what this philosophy is that we teach here at Centers for Spiritual Living, is called Science of Mind. And so we're a deep dive into the philosophy, and every month is going to be a different part of the teaching. So this month for March, we're talking about healing and wholeness. Healing and wholeness. So everything this month is around that topic, whether it's in our small groups or it's what I talked about during our spiritual practices Sunday, and it's certainly what we're going to talk about today. We sure did. We sure did. So before we jump in, because Circle Sunday is a little bit different, I just want to acknowledge the fact that this idea of people coming together in circle comes from indigenous practice. I think on every continent, indigenous people have been coming together in circle. Right? And then we do it too, right? We circle around the dinner table and around the campfire. And so it's something that's kind of in our DNA, is to come together in circle. And so these were the tribes of this area where we live. And I don't want to try and say it because I'm not going to pronounce it correctly. But if anyone else knows the proper Ocali, the Ocali tribe, the Patana and the Platana and the Aquila. Yes. Yeah, so we just take a moment to acknowledge the original inhabitants of this land. And just take a moment. And we give thanks for all the ancestors that came before us. And so what is this this thing that we teach, this idea, the science of mind? What is it all about? Good morning. And this is just kind of a summary definition. It's a practical study of consciousness, right? Like our awareness. How do you study awareness when the thing that you're studying with is the thing that you're studying? Right? It's a little weird. Yeah, you have to kind of get like in an observer kind of space, a little bit, detached almost, to be able to see things, to recognize that, awareness. So anyway, it is a practical study of consciousness and truth principles from scientific, philosophical, psychological, and spiritual perspectives. So, what you get here is stuff that's being corroborated from science, the world of science, it's philosophy, and also it's the threads from the world's great religions. So, hopefully, there's a little something here for everybody. And it empowers individuals to maximize their human potential. That's why we're here. Hi, Hannah. I knew some folks would be coming from Gainesville today. Thank you for joining us. So the philosophy is based on the principle that consciousness is the source and the substance of all that is. We are one with that consciousness, and we use it to create our experience of life. You'll get all that. I know there's lots going on. And when you're in circle, like, you can't hide, right? You can't, like, go to the back of the room where nobody sees you. No, it's like everybody sees everything as people walk in the room. So, we just go with the flow and welcome. No. There's probably going to be another one or two coming in this space. So no worries. So anyway, everybody got that. That's what we teach here, is the science of consciousness, is the study of consciousness from all these different perspectives. And then circle. So why do you think we sit in circle? What's unique about a circle versus, like, no end, there's no hierarchy. What else? Can't hide. You see everybody. Yeah, all that great stuff. Yes. So circles provide a structure and process for conversations, right, that foster mutual respect, emotional literacy, empathy, problem solving, et cetera, et cetera. And all those things you all said are there as well. It's a symbol of unity and oneness. It's universal. It's about shared power. Y'all are smart. Okay. But here's what circle is not for. Good morning. Circle is not for lecturing. Although I am doing a lot of talking, it's really not for lecturing. There's going to be a point where everybody gets to talk. It's not for persuading people to your point of view. It's to open our minds to other people's perspectives. It's not for punishing people or putting someone in their place. Circles can be used for restorative conversations when there's conflict, but it's never for that purpose. It's not about punishing folks. And while it can feel very cathartic and very therapeutic, it's actually not therapy. So we're not here to therapize or to therapize others. Okay, so the guidelines, there's mutual respect. We want this to be a brave space, meaning that it has to feel safe for people to be able to show up and be themselves. So in order for it to be brave, confidentiality, I think, is really important. So the learning leaves, the lessons leave, but we don't share other people's stories or other people's business. Are we good with that? Like, what's said here stays here? Everybody can agree with that, right? Okay, very good. So be present. What do we mean with that? Be present. Be in the moment. Yeah, what else? Be here now. Yes. Yeah. We all had things that happened before we got here. We all have stuff that we're going to do when we leave. But, the more present you can be, the better, the more you're going to get out of it. So you just keep kind of bringing your mind and your focus and your attention back to the circle. It's real easy to get off track. Somebody says something and your brain goes over there, and suddenly you're thinking about dinner or, work tomorrow, and so reel it back in and come back. WAIT, W-A-I-T, that's just a little acronym for why am I talking? Or why aren't I talking? Right? People show up to the circle in different ways. Sometimes there are people that have no problem talking a lot. And then some folks don't talk at all. So just think about what it is that you're sharing, and is it adding to the circle? And again, if you're one of the more quiet ones, be a little braver. Step up and share, because people want to hear from you. And then the parking lot is if something comes up in the conversation and it's not really, maybe it's tangential, not real super pertinent. So we would put it off to the side and address it later if there's time. Okay. So the format of our circle, there's an opening, which is what I'm doing now. We're going to do a mindful moment in a little bit, and then a short presentation of what our topic is. And then there'll be some guiding questions and an interactive, that's when we break out into groups. And then we'll come back together for a closing. And so, our mindful moment, I'm going to go ahead and invite you all to kind of put both feet on the ground and get nice and comfortable. It's just kind of just a quiet moment, opportunity for us to settle in. And so I'm going to invite you to take a nice deep breath and feel your body relax. Just release any tension. If there's any tension in your head, your neck, your shoulders, just take a deep breath and let it all flow out. Down your torso, just let all that tension flow out from your legs and feel yourself anchored here and now. And I'm going to do a little reading from a book called This Thing Called You. You belong to the universe in which you live. You are one with the creative genius beyond this vast array of ceaseless motion, this original flow of life. You are as much a part of life as the sun, the earth, and the air. There's something in you telling you this, like a voice echoing from some mountaintop of inward vision, like a light whose origin no one has seen, like an impulse welling up from an invisible source. Your soul belongs to the universe. Your mind is an outlet through which the creative intelligence of the universe seeks fulfillment. This is your starting point for investigating the meaning of the impulses, the longings, and the desires which have accompanied you throughout your life. You may accept that the source through which they come is real. You may accept that the universe is filled with a divine and infinite presence, perhaps the infinite of yourself. Not the infinite of your limited self, but the infinite of the divine self that you must be. There must be a pattern of your infinite self within the invisible. Socrates called it his spirit. Jesus called it Father in heaven. Some ancient mystics have called it the Atman. But why don't you just call it you? Your whole, unadulterated, complete self. Catch the larger vision. Know that there have been and are still people who have realized, wooed, and pursued the invisible presence until its atmosphere and essence have become woven into the fabric of their own existence. Everyone is a doorway, as Emerson has said, through which the infinite passes to the finite, through which God becomes human, through which the universal becomes the individual, and this thing called you. So take another deep breath and bring your attention back to the room. And as I said, that reading came from a book called This Thing Called You that was written by Ernest Holmes, who was the founder of this philosophy called the Science of Mind. Right, so I thought it'd be a nice little kind of anchoring moment. And there's that quote by Emerson, who was a big influence on Ernest Holmes. If you know the Transcendentalist movement, Emerson and Thoreau, Emerson was one of them, and he said that quote, everyone is a doorway through which the infinite passes to the finite, through which God becomes man, and through which the universal becomes the individual. So we are all walking, talking, breathing, feeling, hearing, seeing, touching, smelling, all of that, emanations of the divine. I think that's a pretty cool thing. So I have a video that kind of gives that sense. Some of you may have seen it before. If you have, just enjoy it again. I love watching this one. It's pretty cool stuff. So it's called The Cosmic Eye. Yeah, maybe we turn down the lights. Oops. Pretty cool, huh? That was an obnoxious little pop up there at the end. Oh my gosh. I show this to my grandchildren when they see it. My grandson is just like, does everybody have a universe in their eyes? Like, how did that get in there? Do you know, it's the microcosm and the macrocosm. I think it just really shows that idea, that we are all part of it. It goes in both directions. Yeah, anybody want to say anything? Want to get the mic? Thank you. See if anyone wants to say anything about that.
Oh, I was saying infinity goes in both directions, or all
Yes.
directions,
Yes.
larger and small.
Yeah. Anybody else?
We don't really know how far it goes.
Exactly.
We have only learned what we've learned. We've only seen as little as we could see,
Yeah.
but it could go on in infinity.
Yeah, absolutely. Cool stuff, huh?
Just wanted to remind people that we're probably the white blood cells of some bigger organism.
Yeah, we could be.
For the cancer.
Yep.
We could be. Yeah. Yeah, we had a video the first week. We showed that, or like, are we the itchy things on the body of the world? Like is the earth shaking off those itchy humans? Like the earth is an organism, right? And we're all part of that. And this idea of us being separate individual things is just kind of an illusion of our consciousness. We are all so much bigger than what we think we are, and what we've been led to believe. So I thought that's a good opening. Can we skip that? There we go. All right. So we're talking this idea of wholeness, right? Healing and wholeness, and I kind of use those words interchangeably. And what Ernest Holmes has said, and when you think about that zooming in and zooming out, right, that whole thing, that healing is not a process, but a revelation. The process, if there is a process when it comes to healing, is really in the time and thought that it takes for us to get back to right understanding of our perfect state. You know, when you see that zooming in and zooming out, it's all divine perfection. You and I don't have anything to do with that, right? I mean, thank goodness I'm not in charge of all of that. You ever feel that? I have a hard enough time staying in charge of my own stuff. But there is a divine pattern, that spiritual perfection that's behind all of it. We just have to get our own bloated nothingness out of the way. Again, to quote Emerson. So healing is not creating a perfect state or a perfect body. It's revealing the idea that is already perfect. Dis-ease, may be a fact, but it's not the truth of who you are. Neither is trauma, right? Or any of the other human things that we go through. Their experiences, they don't reflect the spiritual reality of who you are, right? The spiritual reality of who we all are is so much bigger and is already divine perfection. Does that make sense? Right? So what we're doing is, reminding ourselves of that as we get out of survival mode, because again, nobody survives, right? None of us get out of this life experience alive. So that's not even a thing. So how do you make the most of this experience, right? That we are all in this crazy mystery. So yeah, where is this wholeness? We're saying we're whole and we're spiritually perfect and divine, but the world sure doesn't feel like it, does it? Does your life feel like it? Maybe sometimes, right? So you get glimpses of like, wow, this is just the best. And then there's those moments of, wow, when are we checking out of here? Like, anybody else have those? Yeah. So where is that? That's what we're going to talk about today. And how do we access, because we are human beings having this human experience. And so in order for us to really, it's paradoxical, right? So to feel that wholeness and to feel healed, you have to be willing to go into the woundedness, right? To get to the light, you have to go through the shadow. It's like you don't get to go around it. That's why, life sets us up this way for whatever reason. So Carl Jung says we don't become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious. And we all have it. We come into this life, this world, and part of that is pain and suffering, along with the joy and the wonder. And like it's the whole thing, the wholeness of it, the wholeness of it. There's not a point where we're not going through the human journey. That's when we're done, right? So as long as we're here, there's going to be stuff. So the faster we can come to grips with that, the better. Yeah. So we talked a little bit the first Sunday of the month about this idea of the ACEs, because this seems to be something that is a common, not for everyone, but ACEs stands for Adverse Childhood Experiences. How many of you have heard that term? So there's a few who are not familiar with this. So the ACEs study came out of the work of a physician at Kaiser Permanente and the Centers for Disease Control. The Kaiser physician was doing psychosocial evaluations of folks in an obesity clinic. So all of his patients were at least 100 pounds overweight. And one after another had all these stories of childhood trauma. And so he had like a light bulb moment and he came up with this scale, which is represented in the tree over here. You see the tree? There's things up there and it's really blurry. And I have a handout for all of you too. Thank you, Galen, for adding to the handout. So the scale says if you would have gone through one of these 10 things when you were a child, there is a correlation with dysfunction, disease, like a lot of stuff. And I'll share about that a little bit more. But the original ACE study was just those 10 things. So if you were physically abused, and by that, I don't mean just like a spanking, but the kind of spanking that left marks. If you went through that as a child, if you were sexually abused as a child, if you were neglected, if your parents divorced, if there was substance abuse, if someone was incarcerated, if there was mental illness in your home, like all of those things are part of the original 10 ACEs. And then they expanded it to say that people could go through stuff that was not just personal in their home, but in their community. Like if you live in a neighborhood where you're afraid to go outside, right? Or there's not enough food, there's poverty, there could be substandard schools, there could be violence in the neighborhood, lack of social capital, poor water and air quality, food scarcity, et cetera, et cetera. So that's another whole thing where people can be traumatized is from the community, right? And like ancestral trauma, things that are passed down from generation to generation. Then we have this whole other area here of environmental aspects of things that can cause trauma in your life. We just went through a pandemic, right? That was very traumatic for folks. Imagine what it is to be a refugee, to leave your home and your customs and your language and everything, like how traumatic that would be. So you think about the ways that people can be hurt. It's pretty significant. It's pretty significant. We're like the walking wounded in a lot of ways. And there's an impact from that. So from the ACE study, the original study, which was like 20, 25 years ago, and it has since been replicated in a lot of different areas, there was a third of the population had not experienced any of those ACEs, any of those 10 things that I talked about. Not to say that they haven't suffered, not to say they haven't been through stuff, but a third of the population didn't have those adverse childhood experiences. And then 25% of the population has an ACE score of 1, 15% has 2, 10% has 3, 6% has 4, and then 11% have ACE scores of 5 or more. And then you start to see what the implications are of that. So if one ACE is present, there's an 87% chance that at least another category is present. Meaning if you grew up with a parent maybe that was an alcoholic, there may have been some domestic violence, there may have been some abuse, there might have been some neglect. These things kind of cluster together. It's not usually just one and done, right? There's a high probability that you would have others. Women are 59% more likely to have an ACE score of 5 or more than men. Adults with an ACE score of 4 or more are, get this number, 30 times more likely to attempt suicide. And then people with 6 or more ACEs tend to die 20 years earlier than people without. So just like breathe that. Because the next thing I want to say, I think it's the next slide. No, this gets more into let me just say this because the slide is in here. Causation, let me see, correlation is not causation. Just remember that. These things are correlated, but it doesn't mean that if you have an ACE score of 6 or more that you're going to die 20 years earlier. Okay? I just want to say that. So here's the impact on behavioral health. And some of this is review. I did this the first week that we were together. You can see the impact of ACEs on your behavioral health, obesity, depression, anxiety, mental illness. All of those things are more likely, like the possibility of experiencing those things escalates the more ACEs you have. It just makes sense, right? It makes sense because the pain and the trauma was kind of hardwired in. So that's the impact on behavior. Then we have impact of ACEs on physical health. You're more likely to have COPD. Again, the more ACEs you have, the more the likelihood goes up for all of these things. Stroke, kidney disease, heart disease, arthritis, heart attack, diabetes, et cetera, et cetera. COPD, so COPD is chronic obstructive pulmonary disease. And I was shocked when I saw that number, like, holy cow, I mean, I get it. Like heart attack makes sense. Cancer makes sense to me, like intuitively. Why COPD? And a therapist friend of mine, a physical therapist, said, oh, that's easy. What do you do when you're scared? right? We do that, right? You hold your breath. Right? So there's, I don't know that that's a fact. I don't know that anybody has done the research, but it kind of makes sense to me. The lungs have to expand if you're constantly like holding it, right?
When I work with people with COPD, there's that feeling of not being able to catch your breath, and it totally makes sense to me because the lungs has to be able to expand fully and contract and expand and contract. So if you're one that's always in your home growing up in those developmental times when you were actually developing your body and you never expanded those lungs, your lungs are going to be tiny and shriveled up. It's not going to have the expansion that you need. So yeah, of course COPD is going to be more prevalent.
Yeah, it makes sense. Plus, whatever things people are doing to compensate, right? Like we're self-medicating. You didn't know that? Yeah, what that is to self-medicate, right? Drinking, drugs, things that can cause more problems. So there we are. Correlation is not causation. Remember that. And Chloe's got no problem with her lungs. Let's just say that. That's the upside. So here the upside. There is an upside to this. Okay, we're not leaving it there with the trauma because I know for some of you, I know when I saw it, it was a kick in the gut for me to go like, wow, and I'm at a 4. That's where the fun really starts. Yeah. So you're up there, right?
There, and my score was an 8, and I was just the first time you showed this to me, it just, yeah, it hit me right in my center. I was like, oh my God, I'm one of those people, like, oh
Mm-hmm.
God, woe's me. And then when you talked about that wounded warrior, the
Yeah.
wounded healer, and I thought, yeah, why not me?
Yeah. Life set us up. Life is setting us up. So the trauma happens, right? You go into survival mode. That's the thing that everybody does. We're all adults here. I imagine I'd be surprised if there was anybody who didn't have a little something. I mean, that's just the nature of it because we come into spiritual community so often because of our stuff. Right? So there tends to be a lot of it. So you go into survival mode and then you adapt to the circumstance. But here's the great thing: there can also be growth. We all know about PTSD, but did you know about post-traumatic growth? Right? Like that's the opportunity that you get to grow through these things and turn all of that mess, that BS, into some fertilizer for your life. Let it make you stronger, right? I like that analogy. Post-traumatic growth. And what Donna said, this idea of the wounded healer, that nobody escapes being wounded. This comes from an author who wrote a book called The Wounded Healer. I'm sorry about the spacing on that. Nobody escapes being wounded. We're all wounded people, whether physically, emotionally, mentally, or spiritually. The main question is not how do we hide our wounds. We don't have to be embarrassed, but how can we put our woundedness in the service of others? When our wounds cease to be a source of shame and become a source of healing, we have become wounded healers. Yeah, yeah. So the wounded healer, that's the social worker who was in foster care when they were a kid. That's the AA sponsor. That's the kid whose father was blind and now he's an advocate for blind people. These are folks that I know, and people that are sitting in this room, right, that have been through some stuff and use that to be their access point for their purpose and their passion. And Rumi says the wound is where the light enters. And I love Donna's quote much better. The wound is the place from which the light emerges, right? That it becomes our access point to really owning our power and being who we came here to be. So another, the thing that makes a difference, I spent 25, 30 years of my professional career. This is my work outside of ministry. To figure out what the heck, what makes the difference. If we're all the walking wounded, why do some people end up behind bars? Why do some people, never recover, right? And how do some people become helpers, right? Some people say, because this thing happened to me, I'm going to make sure it never happens to anybody else. Right? I'm going to ease the way for other people. And then other folks are like, well, because it happened to me, maybe it's not intentional to do it to others, but they're hurting, and hurt people hurt people. and healed people heal people. And so the thing that I have found that has made the biggest difference, I think, and you'll see it from the handouts as you read it, because there's a scale on here for protective factors, there's a scale for resilience. And again, correlation is not causation. What makes the difference is the quality of relationships and the people that you have in your life, right? And there's a whole body of research that's been done from some place called the Search Institute. The Search Institute has done over 6 million surveys of young people, of kids and young people throughout the US and Canada, to see it's like the flip side. We know about the drama and the trauma and what pain that causes. Well, now let's look at the other side and what are those things that can mitigate all of that pain and drama and stress. And so the surveys, this is what came out from those surveys. You need people in your life, 5 different kinds of relationships. And I don't think it ends when you're a young person. We need these people throughout our existence. And that is someone who can expand your possibilities, someone who can show you that there's something better for you. Like you may be going through something now, but here, look, I've done it too, and I've come out on the other side, and this is who you can be. Somebody who expresses care, right? Like that soft place to land when things are rough. You know, you have a person that can care for you and hold you and your pain. Person who can provide support, right? Like be that person that can sit with you when you're in the midst of that pain and drama and actually hold your hand and walk you through it, right? We need people who challenge our growth, you know, and then we also need people who are willing to share power so that we can step into our own, like, you know, you become an apprentice or something, right? So these may be one person, you know, they may be multiple people. When I think of myself as a parent, you know, I'm the parent who provides the support and the care. You know, I'm not as good at challenging, you know. So that's where other people in the family come in for my kids, right? So we want to have different kinds of people in our lives, and these different functions are vital, that we have these people who can serve this in our lives. And so that brings us to our circle questions. So what we're going to do now is to go into smaller groups, and we have a few more people came in, so it was probably about 30 people maybe. So let me see, would you be a facilitator? Yes. Can you be a facilitator? Yeah. Can you be a facilitator? And can you be a facilitator? So how many is that? 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. You want to do a group? Okay. All right. So we're going to, and 6, maybe we'll do 6 people. All right. So let's do 5 groups. I think that'll be good. So what we're going to do is count off to 5. Oh, I didn't count myself, did I? I roam. Okay, that's good. All right, I'll do that. I'll roam. So you're going to count to 5, and then we're going to go into small groups, and we're going to answer these questions. You're just going to, from your perspective, there's no right or wrong. It's really just about point of view and sharing and expanding everybody's perspective. All right, so go ahead. All right. Okay, you'll be 2.
Well, so are you facilitating on that?
Yes.
Okay, so facilitators and everybody else should have
That's true. Yes, facilitators should count separately. So go ahead. Start, Aubrey. You're 1. 3. 3. 1. 4. You're 1. 2. She's 3. 4. Wilma's 3. Wilma didn't count. Right? You're 4. Okay. You're 5. Yes. All right. Yes. So you're 1. 3. 4. Okay. 5. All right. That's it. She's a 4. She's a 5. And I'm going to roam. I'm going to roam around. So once, okay, who's going to be where?
The fours are not going outside of me.
The fours are not going to be in the heat. You're going to be in the bookstore? What number are you? I'm going to have to print that out, right, to make sure you got the questions. Hang on a second. Let me print and make sure folks got questions. Oh, yeah, Lori. Something. That's okay.
That's okay.
My fault. I messed up. So let's use Chrome. Let's see. How do I go back? That's a little sorry. It's my fault. AOL. So let's go. I have to print something out. So. Where's the 9? Oh my gosh, it didn't go in. Can you type Grimes 19? There it is, 194. Okay. Why is it suddenly gone?
Because of the pressure.
I guess.
Well, receive the pressure.
Okay. I knew I was forgetting something too this morning. It was like it was going so smooth. Oh, for God's sakes, no. No. Is my purse here? My purse is here. Oh, for God's sakes. Did it give me a number?
Hello? Can you hear me?
Yes. Can you hear me?
Can you hear me, Alicia?
Yes.
Okay, I don't hear you yet, so I got to figure this out.
Is your microphone on?
We can still see you and Alicia on the live. Did you
Okay.
know? Oh, me and Karen just didn't know if you knew.